All right, guys, here we go. It is do or die time for both of these teams. Game 9 to decide who goes on to the main event in Team Arena Challenge number 3. And up at the top of the map, the green Zerg player from CheckSix. It is Mystic. And down at the bottom left, winning, finally beating Sleep after 4 losses for its GoSu. It is GoSu.HwangSin. And you know what? If you look at the stat history for these two teams, the player that's done the best against its GoSu actually is Mystic.
Interesting.
He's taken the most matches and the most games off of its GoSu players, so Mystic a good choice for an ace here, but HwangSin is, as we saw, a very strong PvZer. He's got a lot of strong 2-base timings, so we'll have to see what he has planned for this one.
Very cool. I'm looking forward to it now, as none of these games have been very cheap, really. We've had, you know, some incredibly long games. We started with a ridiculous 42-minute ZVZ to kick off the night, but
crazy
you know,
stuff.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And afterwards, the games have all been pretty long, decent ones, you know, not a lot of cheesing or anything along those lines.
Yeah. So this is a pretty huge map. I mean, if we're going to see a match that'll go a little bit longer, it'll definitely be on a map like this. And HwangSin, you know, although he's known for his 2-base timings, he does play macro games too in PvZ fairly frequently. So he could decide to go for like a little bit quicker third or something like that as well. We'll have to see if he becomes the first Protoss player to block a hatchery this game.
I'm on the edge of my seat. I can't wait to see.
He does like to put the pylon down at the hatchery, so we'll see if he does it or not.
Oh, please, for the love of God, actually hit this. All right, well, of course, here it comes.
That's a rally that actually gives the drone room to put down the hatchery. Here we go. Is this drone going to be the first one? Will he succeed where they all failed?
Well, could put one down. Nope, he has a forge, so now he has to wait for a while.
By sitting there, he's already succeeded. And
no pylon.
That was a decision. That was a conscious decision by the probe.
Still no pylon blocks.
No pylon block, no.
I am disappointed.
Yeah. Well, you know, some Protoss players like it, some don't. It's very popular these days, but you don't see everybody do it.
Popular with the kids these days.
Yeah, like hula hoops.
Yes, it's true. Like hula hoops.
You know, for kids. Yep.
Well, Forge just finishing up. We'll see Cannon here in a second. Then I'll move into a gateway after that. What's that? HwangSin loves, like, it plays a little bit greedier whenever he does this, but it works. But of course, you prioritize that second pylon before the cannon, before the gateway. It delays that considerable amount. This is a very large map, so the Zerglings take forever to get across there, so it's not like you can't get the cannon up in time. But he does love getting up those additional probes.
I mean, what does HwangSin really have to worry about? You know, at this point in the game, he can just kind of sit there, be perfectly fine. So it's going to be a while before we see, you know, what our players are planning. I think we're probably going to see that 3 hatch from Mystic. Yeah, he's already sending a probe over there to do that.
Yeah, and there we go. Becomes a hatchery right away as 3 hatches are out, no gas, and he's just going to see if he can overwhelm his opponent in a bit. Now, we saw Sleep do this a couple of different ways. You know, ended up, you know, did a couple, or once where he decided to go for pretty heavy roaches. We saw one time where he decided to go for, you know, quite a bit of TAC along with this as well. Delay, switch over to a Spire, things like that.
Yeah,
so
you can do like Mutas or something too if you want to. It's such a great opening against Protoss players that go for that Forge Fast Expand, which every Protoss player is doing now. Like, you hardly ever see a Gateway Expand in PvZ anymore, and the response from Zerg players has been to adopt this 3-hatch style, and there's really no reason not to do it. I mean, as long as your scouting is proper, as long as you know the timings and you know what Protoss players could possibly do, it's actually fairly easy to hold those 3 bases early on in the game, and from there you just have a really strong economy going into the mid-game.
All right, well, Mystic, we'll see how many units he builds up to before he decides to throw down any sort of gas, Roach Warren, Evolution Chamber, anything along those lines. There's finally first gas at 43 supply, actually double gassing inside of the main.
All right, so I like this by HwangSin sending out a couple Zealots just to kind of put some pressure on his opponent, get some scouting done. And a Stargate too, okay. All right, so we're going to see Stargate play out of our Protoss player here today.
And taking a look around now, let's see if Mystic's going to throw a curveball at us, or if things are going to remain pretty predictable from here on out. Does have a ton of workers already built up for now. Finally, a couple of Zerglings. 2
Stargates for HwangSin. He just put down a second one.
Oh, you're right.
He is going to be, he's going to be going very, very heavy on the air. It looks like this game. And that, you know, that can work or it cannot work. It's one of those things where I felt like that Zerg players have play versus Stargate figured out, and they've had it figured out for a long time. The one advantage that he might have, though, is that if Mystic thinks it's just a single Stargate, he could underprepare, and that's the type of thing that wins Protoss games. You know,
right.
Zerg underprepares for double Stargate. He's got Overlord in position, though, to move in, and I think he's moving in right now, actually.
You know what I think?
What?
I think that Mondragon was secretly a genius. He was a great RTS player, but his list of counters remains ever more relevant nowadays because Roach is so popular against Protoss players now. And we go back to the TSL3 Mondragon list of counters. But I got to tell you, man, he was a visionary. He was a visionary, all right?
Well, he knew that Roaches were good. You know,
yes.
Against Protoss players. I feel like that game was maybe a bit of a fluke, you know, if we have to be honest here. But where's the Overlord?
And there.
Okay, well, there was one in the main. It looks like it was taken out, and he did not see both Stargates. I think HwangSin took it out with the Phoenix.
Twilight Council coming up after that as well.
Still doesn't know. Interesting. Okay, so yeah, HwangSin's about ready to move in with a lot of Phoenixes here. A huge amount of Phoenixes, in fact.
What? Spore Crawler's coming up? Are you a wizard, Mystic? Is this...
Well, he's named Mystic. I mean...
I suppose that's true.
What do you expect, really?
That's still really, honestly, though, my favorite, like, meme guy, the Are You a Wizard guy.
Oh, okay.
Makes me giggle. It makes me giggle.
All right, well, here comes HwangSin. He's going to be giggling when he kills off a couple queens here, but there's so many spores on the way. This harassment may not last for very long, and he's actually... This is such an interesting build from HwangSin. He's actually going for Zealot Charge with this as well.
Yeah.
So he's going to follow this up with a lot of speed lots, and, you know, we could see Templar Archive for Archons as well. Really interesting build from HwangSin. Definitely something that Mystic may not be expecting too much. Oh, that queen's way too far away. Yeah, he's going to get that picked off.
And Mystic is going up to a Hydralisk Den as well with a couple of additional upgrades, and at least sitting on the map with a good number of units.
You know, and I think this is what exactly what HwangSin wants to happen too, because speed lots and Archons could do quite well against Hydras. So, yeah.
A lot of workers picked off there.
Oh, good counterattack.
Oh, Mystic trying to make his way in. He does sneak a couple of Zerglings by. He already killed one of the sentries. Finally, a couple of Stalkers coming up as well. But still, Mystic has done a little bit of damage here.
Yep. And this is going to use up a lot of gas that HwangSin wanted to spend on something else, so he just had to warp in 2 more sentries right now. He's got his +2 weapons started. But look at this, he's going to lose almost his entire wall. He's forced to use the Phoenixes to lift Roaches. That is definitely not something that HwangSin wants to do right now. What a great counterattack for Mystic. Yeah,
very much so, and he does kill another Stalker and a Zealot as well, in addition to those 2 buildings up at the top. So, yeah, charge may be almost done, but it's almost an entire sentry force and a good number of Zerglings flood on through, but there's enough Zealots, though, to start driving them away.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if HwangSin just makes a ton of Zealots and attacks, he could still do some damage here, but definitely thrown off a little bit by having to warp in those extra sentries, having to defend that. He's going to have to remake some buildings, and that's going to buy Mystic a good amount of time here, which is, you know, really what you want at this point in ZVP. You want to buy yourself time to get another big round of drones, potentially, to get a lot of units out that you need, and we've seen him doing both of those.
All right, well, HwangSin is threatening. He's got quite a few forces in the middle. Mystic's macro has been pretty good, though, as he does have a considerable number of forces sitting in the middle of the map, and starting to add on a couple of Hydras at the very least. But HwangSin, he's going to make his way in. He still has a bit of energy left on those Phoenixes, so can lift up a couple of key units, but certainly those Roaches that were forced to be lifted before have whittled that down quite a bit.
Yep, the engagement is going to be pretty important here for Mystic. He's going to need to make sure that the Roaches are in front. He needs some tanking the Zealot damage so the Hydras can fire from behind. If he gets a good position like that, he should be able to kill this army.
Oh, HwangSin is supply blocked. He wanted to warp in another round of units, but unfortunately has to start making a bunch more pylons up at the front.
Yep, and that's going to definitely cost him here too. Mystic is really well prepared for this 2 base from HwangSin. I don't know, man. This is going to be risky.
All right. Pretty good spread of the units from Mystic. Actually, very impressive splitting there. A few units are picked up now. Looks like they're going after mostly roaches, so the Hydralisks are actually free to start picking off the Phoenixes, and already quite a few of them have gone down. A lot of the primary damage dealers in the charge lots have fallen as well, and it's a lot of roaches and Hydralisks that are left, and a huge supply advantage now for Mystic.
Yep, yeah, I mean, HwangSin had to attack and do a great concave there, and Mystic able to just kind of force his opponent back at this point, reinforcing with a few more roaches, microing the Hydralisks for just a little bit, and HwangSin now about 100 supply ahead.
Yeah.
Terrible situation right now for its GoSu.HwangSin.
Yeah, Mystic, you know, caught a little bit of a lucky break there as well, because HwangSin was so critically supply blocked that he had... Look at how many excess minerals he has sitting around, but trust me, a lot of that was in gas just a second ago. He just warped in 1 billion sentries back at home with the increased supply he has now. But, yeah, I mean, you know, with a couple extra warp-ins of units, that engagement could have gone a lot differently, but fortunately for Mystic, now he is in a great spot.
Yep, Mystic is 100 supply ahead, so he is very likely just going to simply attack and win the game at this point. And I think that's exactly what we're going to see here. He's going to check for a third real quick first, but yeah, he's going to be like, all right, no third. Here we go.
Well, I'm just going to start breaking down the wall. So, Warp Gate initially falls. Photon Cannons going down. A handful of sentries remaining. Are a few recyclable force fields and stuff like that. But Mystic going to keep pushing on through now. Does HwangSin have enough? Throws down the force fields, but the ranged Hydralisk sitting at the back were able to still hit a couple of units initially. There's the GG. Well played.
Wow.
CheckSix advances into Team Arena Challenge 3.